and welcome to another edition of Meepleville Presents Yay or No Way. This week, we'll be discussing the game Tapestry, and I happen to be on the yay side.
That means yet again, I'm over here on the no way side. So let's jump into this one. So right off the bat, let's start off with a really, not a big negative, but a kind of an issue with this one that has sort of been addressed by the designer. There are asymmetrical player powers that were not very well balanced at release. And so to address this, Stonemaier Games has put out a big PDF sheet called their Civilization Adjustment up on their website. And so it's great that they're trying to fix the game to make it play better, but that also gives me a little bit of concern that they didn't fully play test this enough when they were releasing it. And so now, depending on which printing you get, and a big side note here, I don't know how many printings there have been. I'm not sure that the game that's in the box will be the most balanced. And if you don't know about this issue, to go look online to find the PDF file to kind of fix things, you might end up trying to play a game that just isn't balanced, which isn't going to feel very good for some people. So that can really take away from the enjoyment for somebody. For such a big, involved-looking game, it is on the simpler side. There's not a ton of choices to make. The difficulty really comes in planning. But even when you try to plan ahead, that can be kind of hard to do. So it doesn't really fall that much on the easier, like it is on the easier side, but it's not really entry level or gateway for me personally, for the people that I think would be playing this. So it sits in a little bit of a weird place for me. It's cool that there's plenty of different ways to score points in this one, but you really have to lean into the cards that you're dealt from both the civilization that you get and then your tapestry cards. And sometimes those just don't mesh very well together. So it can be kind of hard to plan too far ahead when you don't know which tapestry cards you're going to get to really inform what your strategy might be. And so learning to adjust to your tapestry cards is the difficulty part of the game. And if somebody just pulls off a better combo, if they just draw into the right cards, you might feel like you lost more to the draw than you did to your own personal gameplay. And so I don't mind that mechanic when it's in a game that's kind of meant for it. But when you're playing a really highly strategic game like this, or what it's meant to be a highly strategic game, that just kind of pulls me out of it.
Yeah, I mean, all those things you said are good and valid points, especially the one you started out with about the mistake with the balance of the civilizations. I would agree with you there that about the play testing. There should have been a little bit.
Which again, they have fixed, so that's not that big of an issue anymore, just as long as people are aware of it.
Yeah, that is true. But I absolutely love this game. And one of the big reasons I love this game is because of the ease of play. At Meepleville, one of our jobs is to try to get more people into our world of gaming. And when I say our world of gaming, I mean the Catan, Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, the Euro side, not just like, the Monopoly, Sorry, Parcheesi, backgammon, stuff like that, that everybody knows, into our side. Tapestry, to me, fills that niche just immensely. And the reason is because it appears to be a complicated Euro game, a civilization building game where there's a lot going on. It just has that feel, that look, right? When you open the box, take it out, set it up. However, when it comes to actually playing the game, there's only two things you can do. You either advance or you income. Income is very simply if you can't advance, if you got nothing to do. So even teaching this game to my wife, and she isn't like a heavy Euro gamer, she's a good gamer, but she likes the lighter ones. She likes a lot of abstract, like Azul and stuff like that. But she really enjoyed Tapestry because she would say, well, what can I do? You can either advance or if you can't take a turn, then do your income phase. So I really, really enjoy that part. And it's pretty simple to understand once you get going because there's only really 4 areas you can advance in or, take action in. You just have to try to figure out which one is best. And usually it's good to follow 2. But other than that, it's just really good. Now, as far as all of the stuff getting together and playing the game, it is really good to get into. It's really easy to get into once you get going and you figure it out. And the phases are clear cut because once you go to income, you do this, that, doom, boom, whatever. It's clear. It's there. You're taking pieces off the board, moving them around. So it's really, really clear in that aspect. And then one of the other things that I really enjoy about this type of game, a civilization building game, since you each have your own civilizations, you are going to be advancing at different levels. So with that being said, the game is going to end at different points for each player. And you have to be careful that you're keeping your eye on your neighbors, because you don't want that to happen. You don't want to like end and you see that they still have 3-4 turns to go. So you want to make sure that you time it right, so you know that your civilizations are generally advancing at the same level and at the same speed. And I think that makes for a much better game. But in general, I really just enjoy Tapestry.
I did see one thing on like Board Game Geek somebody was talking about, and this does not happen very often, but he played a game where he ended his civilization and it took like another 40 minutes for the other players to finally finish doing theirs. And again, that's bad planning on his part, and I'm sure it's like an extreme case of it.
Yes.
But yeah, the ending at different times, I have heard, again, a very random story. It might not have been a balanced thing.
Right.
A pretty big wait time waiting for somebody else to finish.
But you're right. That would absolutely 100% just be bad timing on their part.
Yeah. Another one of those games where a house rule for drafting of how you get the Tapestry cards to help with the combos that you don't draw into something that's just completely terrible for you might also help this as well, for people that care more about the having fun and everybody doing better than trying to really mitigate the individual little strategies.
Well, there sort of is, right? I mean, at the beginning, the rules do say you get 2.
Yeah, you're supposed to do it. And again, just even if they just did that anytime you draw a card, if you had the access to draw 2, again, not a big deal. Just something that might make it more enjoyable for some people than others.
No, I get it, but that's kind of the thing with every game, right? There's just these little nitpicky things.
Depending on what you're looking to get out of a game, sure.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So why don't you go ahead and start off and talk a little bit about the components, Grant?
I think the component quality is amazing. All the player boards have that nice little sheen to it, right? I can't think of what that's called, but either like a matting. They just feel really nice. They feel that little bit heavier, that you're not going to like scratch or do anything to those. It has a ton of the little building minis. And then there's 18 unique painted landmarks that once you get them all set up and kind of spread all over the board, everything just looks fantastic set up. Like how you were saying, it looks like a complicated game, even though it's not. So I think that's awesome. All of the art in the cards and the civilizations, all of those look really great. So fantastic component quality for me.
Oh, yeah. Now, okay, I'm going to have to agree with you. The component quality is fantastic. The boards, the cards, the mats, absolutely great. The buildings, absolutely great. However, 100% unnecessary. And here's why I say that. Because when you're actually taking the buildings and putting them on the board, it gets in the way. Like you have, okay, so for people who may not be familiar with the game, you have a main board that you're all going to do your advancing on. Okay, that's how you do that. You have the map in the middle of the board. However, you have your own little city that you're building, like where your civilization resides. And they have these beautiful buildings. Once you reach certain levels on advancement, you get buildings and cards can give them to you and all that kind of stuff. But it makes it difficult to see your city board. So what we have done is a friend of mine, he's got a 3D printer. He's just printed out flat little Tetris polyomino pieces that mimic the shape of the buildings, and it's much clearer to see your board and see the direction. But when you've got all those buildings, and I just can't understand, to me, why that was put in there, because I've never played a game where people are like, oh, your city looks beautiful. Look at how you're designing it. Look at how you're building it. It doesn't really matter.
It's the form versus function. It's like any game that has deluxe pieces versus non-deluxe pieces. Is my pink cube any better than my pink pig? No, but I like the pink pig because I pretend it's a pig. I think people just enjoy having the buildings. I absolutely agree. I do think they get in the way. And I feel like it would suffer from the same point of like terraforming Mars. You give that little board a bump and you're like, oh, where were all these buildings at? I don't know. And that would be horrendous. So completely unnecessary. some people just like fancy little things, especially when you get into like the little minis that are painted. It looks nice. It doesn't serve any type of function. And absolutely, I can see for people that don't want to mess with it, that printed piece, absolutely a great idea just to play the game without having to worry about what it looks like.
Right, but it's one of those kind of things, again, where you when you talk about development and the playtesting and all that kind of stuff, what if they made them where they were sort of flat but just raised a little bit, right? So maybe they came up like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of the pieces and have like little terrain, little buildings, like do something like that. But to make them so tall, I don't know. I just don't really. We don't play with them anymore because it's sort of annoying.
Again, I think it's solely because they wanted this to be a civilization game, and the thought of a civilization, it refers to buildings. All the video games that is kind of emulating all the civ builders online, you get all the cool little building graphics. So I think it suffers from that. They're trying to emulate some of these other things that references a civ game, even though it's more of just a kind of straightforward Euro game with what you're actually doing. And so like that cross between that, why they chose to go that route, even though it might have hurt the game in a way more than ever actually helped it.
Right. But again, at the end of the day, I'm 100% on the yay side for this game. They have just announced, maybe not just announced, but there is an expansion that will be coming out. And I'm really excited to see that, because now what is so good about Jamie and also so good about Board Game Geek is the amount of users who submit and their input and all that kind of stuff, and he takes it in and he utilizes it. So it's going to be really nice to see. I think they will have it right with the expansion.
Yeah, and just like how I mentioned, like that it was bad that they had to go back and fix it with those powers. At least they did do that. They didn't just like put a game, go out and be like, yeah, it's not that balanced, too bad. They are actively fixing it, working it, so that's great. They are doing that. Again, it was more, I was just worried if people just don't know that. If you walk into a store, buy a pretty looking box because it looks fancy and says Civ game, then you go home and play it, and you just don't know to look, that your experience might be a little off.
Yes.
Otherwise, great that they do that type of stuff, because they are really amazing with that.
Yes. And also, it's one of those kind of games, which I don't think we've talked about yet so far, that is best, in my opinion, with maximum players, and I believe it's 5.
Does it play 5? I think I played it at 4, and I didn't have any issues at 4. I think the length of the game for it was fine. It wasn't like extremely long. There's some games that do come off feeling really long or a little bit of a drag. And like you said, since the turns and decisions are so quick, it does move along at a pretty decent pace.
That is really true. But one of the really big things about this game that we also didn't bring up is how when you are in your income phase, you do get certain benefits depending on your neighboring players. So that's why when there are 5 people playing, it helps to look and see who's beside you and at what point you may want to enter the income phase to see if you can get something, or you may not want them to get ahead of you because they may earn something. So that's why, to me, it's best at maximum player count. And you're right, it doesn't really add length to the game, especially when you know it, because the turns are quick. Advance, do that. It's really, really well-designed game. So anyway, folks, that is our review of Tapestry, of Yay and No Way. Thank you for joining us.
As always, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support. Let us know in the comments down below which side you are on. Stay following us on our YouTube channel here or over on Facebook at Meepleville Board Game Cafe.
And please remember, if you ever happen to be in Las Vegas, we would love for you to come by and say hi to us and take a look around Meepleville. Until next time, folks, take care of yourself. Bye.
Thanks, guys.